Have you ever seen a campfire where there shouldn't be one? Deep in the wilderness, where no one else is supposed to be? What if that fire was watching you? Tonight, on the Midnight Hollow, we bring you the story of Jacob and Sarah, a couple who thought they were escaping the chaos of city life, only to find themselves hunted by something that defies explanation. It began with a faint orange glow in the distance, a campfire they couldn't explain. But each time they looked back, it was closer. Every step toward it seemed to pull them deeper into a place they could never leave. And then, on the fifth night, they discovered what was waiting in the flames. If you think this is just a ghost story, think again. It starts like this. Jacob and Sarah, a married couple from the city, had been dreaming of a true escape, a full week disconnected from the modern world. Just the two of them, surrounded by nature, off-grid, back to basics. They'd both been feeling the weight of daily life, work piling on, obligations piling higher. And now, they were finally free from it all. Deep in a forest so remote, there was no sign of human life for miles. They set up their tent, cooked over a fire, and watched the stars come out one by one in a sky unclouded by city lights. But as the night went on, something strange happened. As Sarah glanced out into the dark expanse of trees, she saw another campfire flickering in the distance. Odd, she thought. They had chosen this spot specifically because it was supposed to be isolated. And yet, there it was, a faint orange glow. Jacob, joking. Must be a reflection or something. Or maybe another camper came out here without us knowing. It's nothing. Let's just stay put. But Sarah couldn't let it go. And as they continued to watch, they noticed something unsettling. Every time they looked away and glanced back, the fire seemed to be in a slightly different place. Closer, almost like it was moving. By midnight, curiosity got the better of them. They grabbed their flashlights, bundled up, and decided to walk in the direction of the distant fire, determined to solve the mystery. They took each step with care, the crunch of leaves and twigs beneath their feet the only sound in the eerie silence. Yet, no matter how far they walked, the fire remained just out of reach. Finally, after what felt like hours, they gave up. As they turned to head back to their tent, they noticed something chilling. A strange message, written in ashes across the ground. Leave now, before it finds you. But they didn't leave. They were too stubborn, or maybe just too curious to turn back. Instead, they returned to their tent and decided to wait until morning to make sense of it all. But as they tried to sleep, strange sounds began circling their campsite. Footsteps, soft, crunching footsteps, walking in circles around their tent. And if they listened closely, they could hear something else, something even more terrifying. They heard their names, whispered, as if someone, no, something, was calling to them from the darkness. The next morning, they found the ashes of the message blown away, as if it had never been there at all. And yet, as night fell once again, that same distant campfire appeared, closer than before. This time, they didn't bother trying to reach it. They watched it, hoping it would disappear, but it didn't. Each night, the fire appeared, and each night it grew closer and closer, until, on the fourth night, it seemed to hover just outside their campsite. And they realized that whatever was around that fire wasn't going to stop until it found them. And so, on the fifth night, with nowhere left to hide, Jacob and Sarah made a fateful choice. They decided to walk toward the fire, hoping for answers, hoping, perhaps, for a way out. They walked in silence, clutching each other's hands, until they stood mere feet from the flames. But what they saw as they looked into the fire was far beyond anything they could have imagined. The fire wasn't just a fire. It was filled with faces, shadowy, distorted faces that flickered in the flames. The faces of people who, like them, had once walked toward this fire and never returned. Jacob, whispering in horror, "It's them. It's the souls of the people who came here before us." And then they saw something else. Among the faces was another pair. Familiar faces. It was them. The fire wasn't just pulling them in, it was absorbing them. In horror, they turned to run, but the forest had changed around them. The trees seemed to loom closer, twisting and shifting, forming a barrier that kept them from escaping. They were trapped, caught in a loop they couldn't break. And then, a dark realization hit them. They weren't just in any forest. They had been pulled through a hidden rift, a dimensional hole in this isolated stretch of woods, into a parallel world where the forest was hungry. The fire wasn't just a guide, it was a lure. A living, consuming entity that demanded new souls to keep its flames alive. In this dimension, they had one choice: to flee and be hunted, or to surrender and become one with the fire. As they stood in that dark, twisted forest, the ground began to rumble. The faces in the flames cried out to them, pleading for release. They knew that if they stopped moving, even for a moment, they would be next. And that's when they realized there was no way out. Every path they took led them back to the fire, as if the entire forest had become a trap, an endless maze that fed souls to the flames. To this day, some campers say that if you wander too far into those woods, you might just see a fire in the distance. And if you're tempted to walk toward it, you'll find faces in the flames, faces that look like Jacob and Sarah, forever trapped, waiting for new souls to join them, their whispers carried on the wind. A warning that no one ever hears. So if you're ever deep in the woods and you see a flickering fire, don't go near it. Because once you step into that parallel forest, there's no way out. If this story sent shivers down your spine, don't let the tale end here. Hit subscribe and join us for more journeys into the unknown. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, give us a like to let us know, and share it with someone who loves a good scare. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe in places like this? Have you ever experienced something unexplainable? Drop your story in the comments below. And remember, some fires are better left unseen. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.